welcome to the October edition of HR Hot Topics. I'm your host, Jodi Schafer, and my aim is to make this the most informative 10 minutes of your month. We'll be a little bit shorter this month. I know last month we did Earned Sick Time Act, and that was like a 20-minute video. Expect more on that topic to come, especially if the legislature gets involved in making any amendments to that, which is what I'm hoping for. But this month we're going to talk about something else. November is right around the corner. We are in the midst of election season, and if your mailbox looks anything like mine, you're getting political flyers daily, 3, 4, 5 of them. You can't drive to work without everybody having signs in their yard or flags on their truck. I mean, it's everywhere, right? This is a highly contentious, highly charged political season, especially around the presidential election. We've had this in years past too, although it seems like over the course of the last 12 years, it's become really politically charged. And for that reason, I thought it was important to just remind all of you about some things you can do proactively to keep politics out of the workplace. When you have individuals that are staunchly on one side of the spectrum versus the other, you're not changing minds and changing hearts at work. And so I think a proactive conversation perhaps with your team, especially as we're getting closer and closer to the election date, around civility, professionalism, collegiality, collaboration, whatever your core values are within your workplace, I think now is a good time to remind everyone of those values. I don't think you have to outright prohibit political discussions, but I think you can remind folks that they don't always have the intended impact that folks think they do. And again, this is a place of work. The focus needs to be on servicing your customers, your patients, your clients, not trying to, lobby someone over to your point of view. So keep the focus on why you're there, what you're being paid for. You might also want to think about how you, if you are a business owner, want to publicize your political views or not. I'm always surprised when I drive down the street and I see political signs for non-local races in the yards of businesses. And that's not to say that you can't be loud and proud about your beliefs and, who you're going to throw your support behind, but understand that that comes at a cost as well, because there are just as many patients or customers or visitors to your work that might be on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. So as a business owner, you have the choice. You can weigh the pros and cons of stating your beliefs publicly, knowing that it may be a turnoff to some. They may choose to leave your business because of it, especially in an environment that's as politically charged as this one is. It's not to say you can't. When you own the business and you're a private employer, you can do whatever you want, right? But I always sort of question that from the standpoint of bottom line, and I want clients and customers to think about me and the great service I provide, not necessarily what I believe or who I support. And sometimes in the course of business, your customers, your patients, your clients might ask you who you're voting for. And if you're not comfortable sharing that information, that's fine, but you might want to have a canned response ready, because oftentimes a question like that can catch us off guard or could catch your staff off guard. So again, I think having a proactive conversation with your team, especially as we lead up to that election date, around workplace conduct rules, how we're going to treat each other, the things we are and aren't going to talk about, or the way in which we're going to talk about those things, but also how might we respond if we get an unanticipated question inquiring about our stance on something or how we intend to vote, and we don't want to answer that perhaps. How might we respond? So having some of those conversations on the front end, I think, is going to be really helpful here. The other thing that comes up when we are in an election season is the actual time off to vote. Now, many of the handbooks that we've written have voting policies in them. Most of the policies we write encourage staff to try to schedule their voting time around their work hours. For some, that's easier to do than others. Luckily, in the state of Michigan, absentee voting through mail has become much, much easier. So there are opportunities for folks to vote outside of the actual election day. But if you have somebody that is wanting to vote on that day in person to make sure their vote counts, then perhaps you could be flexible with them on the scheduling of that. Would you allow them to do it during a break period, a lunch hour, before work, after work? You can decide whether you're going to pay for that time or not, but it is another consideration around election season. So just a few things here. I think timely reminders. Every 4 years, I feel like I do a PSA on this. So here we are this year, 2024, doing it again. Before I let you go, I want to remind you of two things that we have coming up. The first is we have a free webinar scheduled on December 4th from 11 to 12, all around the Earned Sick Time Act. Now, the reason we're doing it in December is because we are hopeful that the legislature is going to get involved in this. We are hopeful that there may be some amendments to the way that the ballot language is currently written. And we're hopeful that we will know that in November. And so the timing of it is like just giving enough space that by the time we get together in December for the webinar, we'll have all the information. There's no guarantee on that, but that's our hope. So free webinar, December 4th, 11 to 12. We'll be sending out a registration link for that if you're interested. I believe it's going to be co-sponsored by one of our partners, so you'll see that too. And then on January 9th, we are doing an in-person Make and Take handbook seminar. Again, because of the changes around sick leave, because of changes around minimum wage, there are going to have to be changes to your handbook. And perhaps your handbook's been sitting for a long time, and so you need to update several sections of your handbook. This is one of those things, it's like best laid plans, right? We intend to do it, it's on the list, we never quite get to it. So we have found that when we host these in-person Make and Take workshops, you come in, you can have your existing handbook if you just want to make a few changes, but most of the folks use our template. So we provide you the template for free. It's been legally reviewed. It has all the parts and pieces you're going to need. And then together with our team, there are several of us on site, you actually make the changes together with our consultation and with the folks in the room, right? You can poll the room. Well, how do you do it? Well, what do you do in this scenario, right? But you're actually making the changes to your own handbook in real time throughout the course that day. So at the end of the course, you walk out with your completed handbook ready to go. And we schedule that for January 9th because, again, we want to allow enough time for the dust to settle around this Earned Sick Time Act so that when we change the policy, we feel confident that the changes we made are the actual changes we're going to be forced to enact on February 21st, which is the effective date for that. So those 2 dates, December 4th, January 9th, mark your calendar. We'll be sending out some registration information if you're interested. With that, I will leave you. I'll be coming back in November post-election, and we'll talk about something else.